Let me tell you a story from around 2 years ago. I am coming back from my office, and as soon as I enter the gates of my building, I see a few people, some of which are my friends, and a few kids playing badminton. I kind of want to join them because I have not played this game for over a year and I want to play this game. And just when I was thinking that, a friend invites me to play. So I put my bag at my home and I joined them. This girl who invited me, she is my childhood friend, and we have not spoken to each other for over a year. And normally, when two friends meet each other after a very long time, they have a lot of things to talk about. So we start talking, we greet each other, hello, how are you, all this generic stuff, and the conversation is dead. The conversation is dead as soon as it started. After a small awkward silence, we take out our phones and we just stop talking. It's not like I had nothing to talk about. A lot of things happened over the last year, but I was waiting for the perfect starting point to talk about those topics. What I didn't realize was that silence is the perfect starting point. I have noticed this a lot in social people, that when there is an awkward silence, they don't wait for something to happen automatically. They will very naturally tell some story about something that happened to them 3 days ago or even 3 years ago. Some of you might think that that is fine, but my life is pretty boring. I have no interesting stories to tell. And that is simply not true. Your life is not boring. Your storytelling skills are terrible. If you have amazing storytelling skills, you can take a very boring event like walking in a park and turn that into an amazing story. But on the other hand, if your storytelling skills are terrible, you can take an amazing event, an amazing story, and turn it into something very boring. The good thing is, storytelling is a skill which you can learn. The most fun way to learn this skill is by reading fictional books. When people start reading fictional books, they subconsciously start copying the main character. The way he thinks, the way he speaks, the way he tells his own story, you start copying that. And your own storytelling skills improve. And if you want to take this one step further, read this book, Storyworthy by Matthew Dix. The author is an amazing storyteller, and this book has all the rules he follows. One very important thing to have interesting conversations is bringing your own personality to it. Chances are, if you're an introvert like me, you like to ask deep philosophical questions. Ask them. Do not wait for the perfect starting point. Because like I said, silence is the perfect starting point. If the person you're talking to is surprised because you went from having this completely normal, completely mundane conversation to this deep philosophical question, just call it curiosity, because that is what it is. But that being said, not every conversation is supposed to be about life and philosophy. Every person has a playful, a childish side to them, and you need to show more of that side. In my case, for example, aside from having deep philosophical conversations, I also enjoy having playful and witty conversations. The kind of conversations where people have to think to understand the meaning behind my words. I also like having stupid conversations and funny conversations. And as people get close to me, they get to see this different side of me. And look, you can argue that some people are going to find your personality to be a bit weird, but that is completely okay. In fact, it is natural. Not everyone is going to like you. Be okay with that. The end goal of having interesting conversations is to have fun, not to keep the other person happy. As long as you are having fun, that is fine. The next thing is using conversation threads. So conversation threads is the idea that when you have literally nothing left to talk about, you have already told all the stories, you asked all the questions, and there is no topic left to talk about, you start the conversation by talking about a common topic. So for example, you and the person you're talking to go to the same school. You can talk about things happening in the school, the exams, the picnic, the festivals, all those things. And from there you keep changing the topic based on what the other person is saying. So for example, if the other person mentions his family, you can ask more questions about that. You can talk about your own family and then go to the next topic. The problem is this can be very boring, and to make it more interesting, add your personality to it. So for example, in my case, like I mentioned, I like having stupid, sarcastic conversations. So if I have nothing to talk about, I will pick something completely random I can see. So for example, there is this monitor, there is this phone, there is this mic, there is this pillow over here, there is a pillow over here as well, and I will talk about these random things. I will talk about the shape of the pillow or something, and it is stupid, but it's better than nothing, I guess. If someone asks where this topic came from, it is so random, which by the way never happens, but just in case if it happens, I can just be honest and say I had nothing to talk about, so I thought, let's talk about the pillow. If I don't even want to open my mouth, I start playing with the eye contact. I look at that person in the eyes and start smiling like a psychopath and let let their imagination take over. It always leads to an interesting conversation. If there is awkward silence, for example, I talk about how awkward this silence is, which ironically makes it less awkward. If I'm telling a story, for example, and I want people to be interested in the story, I will start the story by saying something like, I want your interpretation of the whole story. Or something like, tell me what would you do in this situation. Or something like, tell me what do you think about this person in the story. And people listen more carefully. One very important thing to keep a conversation going is having open-ended responses. And this is a mistake I've seen a lot of antisocial people make. If you ask them a completely normal question, so for example, what did you do on the weekend? They will say nothing. That's basically it. How is someone supposed to continue conversation with that? Like, what do you expect me to do with this? I can do nothing literally. There is no way for me to respond to this. The best I can do is change the topic and ask another question, but there is a very good chance that he is going to kill even that conversation. It becomes less of a conversation and more like a job interview. I keep asking questions and he keeps answering yes, no, maybe, nothing, and that's basically it. And then these people think, why are my social skills so terrible? Ideally, you should be genuinely interested in that person. You want to know more about him, so you ask him more questions. But if that is not the case, you cannot think of something, at least give the kind of answers where there is some way for the other person to continue the conversation. And this is where emotional intelligence comes in. A lot of times people want to talk about something and they will give you a hint of that thing, but they will not directly talk about that thing. You need to be smart enough to take the hint and ask the right questions about that thing. If you change the topic to something else entirely, or you ignore what they are saying and keep talking about yourself, they are going to be disappointed. They will hate the conversation. You will keep talking to yourself. They will give boring responses. They will act as if they are listening, and the conversation will die. Now, emotional intelligence is a complex topic. You need to read between the lines. You need to understand what other people are thinking. And the only way to improve that is by talking to more people more often. Aside from that, there are a few things people love in a conversation. People love to tell stories about themselves, what is happening in their life, all their struggles and everything. And to make them feel validated, you need to be a good listener. When listening to them, keep nodding, keep saying or something like that, and ask them the right questions about that thing. It shows that you are listening, that you are interested. And you also have to remember the things they are telling you. People feel really special when you dedicate a part of your memory to them. And the second thing people love even more in a conversation is hearing about themselves. When you are talking about them, the kind of first impression you had of them, how that changed over time, your current impression of them, some actions that they did which you noticed, and how that made you feel. If they look tired, if they are in a bad mood, and you notice that and you ask them why they are in such a mood, people just love these things. And yet, so less people do these things. And because it is so rare, it is so valuable. Now, some of you might think that that is fine, but my social skills are so bad that I don't have any people to talk to. And to fix that problem, check out this video. It is about the most underrated social skill ever.